We'll begin. So as we're getting seated, we can establish any way of noticing our breath, feeling our breath. So it can be just simple noticing. We can use the techniques of Ujjayi breath. We can start to feel and notice where breath, the sensation of breath occurs in our body. Does it occur regionally? In a certain region of the body, a lower, higher, frontal or dorsal region? Do we notice it in a particular depth? Do we feel our breath as a part or embedded in our structure? The feeling, the sensing, the noticing is just a vehicle for kind of awakening awareness. Letting the awareness be expressive through the body. I'd like to start with the hands. So breath plus hands. Pardon. Palm, one palm, about navel height, facing away, and we'll just very lightly go through the fingers one at a time, one breath per digit. I like to straighten the elbow. It's not a locking out, but as I unbend my arm, that sensation often switches from highly localized in the digit to more global through the whole arm. And so we begin. And as we dedicate ourselves to feeling, to sensing, to noticing, it's kind of the portal, the doorway through which the body awakens. And make sure we'll switch over to the other side. So we just continue. Just helping ourselves feel the awakeness of the hands, the awareness that's intrinsic to all of our cells, our organs. Right. And we're going to play a little bit throughout the joints. And so often when we are working with the hands and the feet, which of course are kind of like bright spots, little beacon areas of nerve potential and awareness potential and circulatory potential. When we do it in this style, like the active hand can sometimes, it can give us a really good picture, but it might not give us the whole picture. So I'm going to suggest that we can see this. I'm just going to do like little, like $50 sized circles with every single one of my digits. So if I outreach my arms, let's make some circles with the thumb. You can switch directions anytime. Little circles with the index. Now, as I'm making these circles, it's less of me trying to perform circle, and it's more of me trying to feel joint fluidity. I am really trying to feel the space between the bones, which is where the synovial fluid is, which is where a lot of our perceptual information densifies. Okay, middle finger. So these are like perceptual hotbeds, in another way of saying it. And the ring finger. And the littlest finger. Okay. All right, now we're going to go through the wrists. So I'm just going to let that circle grow as large as it needs to. So we're incorporating it through the wrist. And again, direction doesn't matter. It's not so much the movement, the motoric movement, but it's those perceptual hotbeds. And I just want to kind of embody and feel inside those little perceptual hotbeds, which are between the bones. Well, that's interesting. Okay. You can do semicircles, crescent moons, whatever just helps you feel that awareness of the joint system. All right, we're going to take this through the elbows. And as we're kind of moving through and circling through the elbows, and I'm choosing circular motions here, because that seems to play very well with the synovial fluid. You'll notice I'm not doing like back and forth or hinge-like motions. I'm really trying to choose smooth, circuitous, circular, sporadic motions. Okay. And I'm going to let that take me up into the shoulders. So how would I feel the arm bone kind of nested into a socket area with this collarbone just kind of hanging out on the front. And if I can't get a circle, I'll start to play around, like kind of weaving just smoothly in and around, maybe like an infinity sign. Okay, and of course, reversing directions gives you a little. All right. And then we can pause, set the hands down anywhere that helps the arms feel kinetically relaxed, so we can let all that motion just settle for a moment. And you notice there's another layer, almost a substrate of feeling or sensitivity. There's something that we're probably able to sense that we may not have sensed before all of those circular motions. You might feel a certain velocity or a kind of emotion about the body. And just notice if that motion is local or if it has a more general or systemic feel or regional feel. Cool. All right, we're going to change the cross of our legs a little bit. And let's straighten them out in front. We're just going to do a portion, just a little bit of a portion of the toe, ankle, knee joints. So I'm going to start with the toes. I find I can usually get the big toe kind of circling. It's all those little toe joints. I'm going to circle them both ways. Now again, it's not the movement that I'm trying to enact. The movement is just trying to help me highlight and uncover perceiving the joints, the spaces between the bones. I just happen to think that bones are fairly easy things to find for most people. And so if we can kind of largely and easily feel the bone, we can start to refine our sensitivity for the spaces between the bones, all right? I'm going to improve, enlarge that circle a little bit to include the ankles. Okay. Now, I'm not totally satisfied with having my heels on the ground for these ankle circles, so I'm just kind of out loud playing. I'm going to raise my calves up on a couple of blocks so that I can get those ankle circles just feeling more fluid, less restricted by the floor. I'm trying to feel, I'm sensing behind the heel bone. I'm trying to get some sense and notice underneath the shin bone. And some people get really sensitive to these bones in the foot when they've had like their navicular like out of place, or if they've had certain arch condition or they've broken an ankle. There's no reason we can't kind of improve or increase our sensitivity and awareness for this area without an injury. So, okay. I'm going to let some motion extend through the knee joints. Now, this may be a little tricky. Just configure your environment. Just make little knee circles. Again, I'm moving smoothly. All right. And pausing, we're going to lie on our back. Now, usually we do a set of abdominals where we've got our leg up and a prop between the thigh. But for now, I love this. I'm going to just hold one of my legs kinetically still. And with my other leg, I'm going to trace a circle, maybe the size of a tennis ball. And again, this is for my hip socket. So I'm circling one whole leg, just one. And again, keep bringing our feeling and awareness to bear in the hip socket, the joint space. There's a lot of interesting information that begins and travels through the joint space. Just really smooth. Now, here's the thing. These thigh bone circles may not feel smooth. They may feel kind of jagged, and that's all right. All right, I'm going to switch sides. I'm going to hold the moving leg quietly and now move the leg I haven't moved yet. So again, these can be circles the size of a tennis ball or a softball. Sometimes this is how I discover if I have a little tension or instability or something going on in the sacrum. This is a very kind, a very soft way of feeling that. All right. And now I'm going to circle both legs at the same time, both heels, both thigh bones. So it's kind of wax on, wax off with the leg appendage. And let me invite us to breathe into the sacrum. Letting our feeling kind of heighten, allowing our sensitivity to somewhat magnify in and for the pelvis, the hip socket, the sacrum. I'm going to switch directions. So if I was waxing on, now I'm waxing off. It's very little, very small circles, really, rather. All right. And so that you're on today, Joy, if there are particular abdominals that feel a little bit much on the in some of these bone areas, these little circular motions can be a nice substitute. They're super gentle. They're very fluidic, right? So just know that these can be in our kit, in our tool bag for those days where sometimes we cannot do abdominals, but we can certainly become more sensitive to the area without a lot of contractile motion. All right, and I'll set the left leg down to the ground, just all the way down. When you straighten the right leg, grab a hold of the right leg, just the back of the leg. And just in an experimental fashion, I'm just going to draw the leg back, not to try to stretch it, but just to feel where sensation starts to shift. Now, here's what I'm going to suggest. This is our laboratory today, our Thursday laboratory. Wherever that leg ended up, let it move out of that range just a few inches. Let the leg go and start to circle it. You're connecting to your breath inside the sacrum and the low back. Now, as I'm circling my right leg, just like we were before, I'm increasingly drawing it toward my chest. And make sure to change the direction of the circle. All right, now I'm going to re-grab that right leg, drawing it toward the chest, just to feel if that range has changed. Good. Cool, and we'll release. Set the right leg down on the ground. Raise the left leg. Okay, I'm going to grab the behind my left leg with my hands. And I'm just doing a little test. I'm drawing the leg toward my chest, as I usually would in this kind of stretch or pose. I'm just noticing where that sensation kind of picks up, where it changes. And I'm going to back out a little bit. Let the hands relax. I'm going to try these little circular motions. So as I'm circling my left thigh, my thigh bone, it's fine if you let the ankle and the toes move with it, that's good. I'm gently and actively drawing my thigh bone toward my chest. So sometimes our muscles, maybe there's some governance to how our muscles feel and work that comes from the joint and the fluid, these proprioceptive hot spots, interoceptive hot spots. All right, I'm going to re-grab that left leg, drawing it in, just like we usually do with that yoga pose or stretch. And again, just feeling if that's changed with circles. And release. Okay, so now we are doing some abdominals. We'll keep the legs bent for frog, lifting through, and we'll separate bent legs apart. So if you need to put feet on the wall, that's perfect. There we go. All right, so hands are settled behind the head to support the head and the neck, to help us feel the back of the brain. And as we inhale, we'll float the head and the shoulders up off the ground. And then exhaling, feel the tailbone. Maybe, just maybe, all of those circles, that motion around the hip socket kind of gives rise to feeling the tailbone. With more distinction, pull the low belly down. Inhale. Relax through the abdomen, feeling with the breath. Feeling the pelvic floor breathe. Exhale. I'm feeling the pubic bone moves, feeling the tailbone move. Draw the low belly down. And I'll let that up, inhaling through the perineal body, the center of the floor of your pelvis. And exhaling. Feel right between the hip sockets. Draw the low belly down, which kind of draws the perineal material slightly into your trunk, right? Can you feel that? Let's do a few more. So continue frog lifting through. Do between 3 to 5 more. Now, sometimes we require a great deal of movement or effort to start to acquire sensitivity in various parts of our body. Like some people might only feel their pelvis when they're working the legs extremely strongly, like in a 300 or 400 pound squat, or they're burning their legs on a bicycle or something. And that's fine. But we need not confuse the effort we take to arrive at sensitivity for the sensitivity itself. Right? So again, we need not confuse the efforts taken by us to acquire sensitivity as the requirement for sensitivity. Because eventually, as we gain that sensitivity, and it's a little bit of a skill and an uncovering, and as it starts to become part of our interoceptive, like we recognize that as a part of us. It's not a foreign region. It becomes easier and easier to feel that. It becomes easier and easier to access that. Okay, we're going to go into bridge. So you might like to have a block nearby. We'll set the feet up hip width apart. The heels a fingertip distance away. Inhale. From the pelvis. Up through the abdomen, under the diaphragm, lungs, heart, chest. Exhale, tip of the tailbone. It lifts away from the ground. The buttock lifts. And then we take that block. Okay. If you need to get up on the tippy toes, just get up and slide that support underneath your sacrum. Now, it's possible to do this next series without a block. Just takes a little extra awareness to keep everything kind of working in the hips level. Many people have, pain in the knees and the sacrum, so we use the block to sidestep pain. And so connecting to breath. So we've done a bunch of stuff to feel the toe joints, the forefoot, the ankle joints. The area between the heel, the ankle, the shin, the knee joint. Now, we're in this bridge, a rather steady, a kinetically quiet, held pose, right? Can you still feel those joint spaces? Can you feel some of those areas between the bones? And is there a sensation associated with that movement and the proprioception, the perception that comes from that area between the bones? Our perception has flavors, right? It gets filtered, there's flavors. All right, so with that left leg kind of connected to the ground, inhale, we'll pick the right foot off the ground, crossing the ankle over the thigh. So we're working this unlocking the hip. So if that block were not underneath me, I would be efforting to just maintain level hips. And still, can you feel that breath now in the right half of your pelvis? The front right and the back right side of your pelvis. And as you exhale, can you feel the right half of your pelvic floor remain really soft, even as the left half of your pelvis is rather engaged? And we'll set that right foot down. And with both feet down, we'll pause here so you can breathe and sense the right half of your pelvis and the left half of your pelvis. Let me be more specific. The pelvic floor, if we just arbitrarily considered the pelvic floor to kind of like a kite, you know, like a diamond, we could have a right half of the diamond and a left half of the diamond. We could have a top or a front part of the diamond. We could have a bottom portion of that diamond. It would look like a kite, the cross. All right, so planting, keeping that right leg now kind of steady. Feel that right side of the kite, the right side of the pelvic floor. It's a little bit of an engagement there. Inhale, pick the left foot off the ground, crossing the ankle over the right thigh. So now can you breathe in and through the left half of your pelvic floor? And in a sense, I'm knitting the right front and the right back quadrant of my pelvic floor, kind of keeping them knit together, if you will. Letting the left quadrants of my pelvic floor just soften, expand. And we'll set that left foot down to the ground. Walking the feet out to hip width, pausing in bridge, and I'll feel with your breath the pelvic floor. The left half, the right half. The front half, the back half. And press off that block. We begin our descent out of bridge. All right. All right, let's turn to a side and we'll press up and set up for dolphin. Just take your time. There's So I hope that. All right, so when we set up dolphin, we're getting our elbows under our shoulders, our knees under our hips, and just kind of maybe feel out how that pelvic area occurs to you, right? It's really so amazing. Our body is this extraordinary kind of information and messaging system, if you will. Sort myself out here. Let's on exhale, come on up into dolphin. Great. So now when we step the right foot atop of the left heel, can you start to feel that joint space between the heel and the shin bone, the bottom of the shin, between the heel and the ankle bones. There we go. All right, and then we'll raise that right leg. Now, I'm not actively doing those circles, but part of why I wanted to start with those circular movements today was so that I had a little more clarity and distinction, or had distinguished the feeling of perceiving through those bone and bone space areas. So I could perceive hip, maybe, just maybe, with a degree of fullness or granularity that I might not have if I had just started with the muscles and stretching and moving the muscles. Okay? There you go. That's it, Joy. That's it. So even though I'm not doing those circles, which may have activated some more sensation for my joint, I can still feel that magnified sensation around the joint. We'll set that right foot down. Remain in dolphin. As we take the left foot to the right heel, we can feel the heel bone and its relationship to the bottom of the shin bones. You can feel our heel bone, its relationship to the ankle bones. Breathing while you're kind of feeling into these places. It's not a front of brain conceptual figuring out. It's really a sensory figuring out. It's a sensory knowing. And we'll raise the left foot off the ground. You know, if we're basing our responses off of the information that comes through our body, it behooves us to ensure that information isn't filtered, stifled, colored, right? So the joint is just one of these places we can play with. How clear and full is all of this information moving through the body? And we'll set that left foot down. We'll set the knees down. Let's stand at the top of our mat. We'll be interspersing some wall work between some sun stuff, just so that you know we'll keep doing a little back and forth. Inhale. The arms move up. Feel the ribs lifting away from the hips. Feel the feet growing, sinking into the earth. Exhale, fold. Inhale the left foot back, lunge. Okay. I want to set this left knee down. Keep the left hand down. And take the right hand to the right leg. Lounge, lunge. So as I hug the right leg, twofold move, I'm turning to the right, reaching through that left leg or sensing all the way in to that left leg. And my left side as it melts toward the ground. So, remain right here and feel once again the pelvic floor. I'm going to speak in quadrants. It's just a way to help us kind of feel some particularities, right? Feel for bringing the left half of your pelvic floor closer to the right half, and then letting them expand apart, feeling the left half and the right half relax apart. Just do it like just one or two times. We're being very gentle, very kind of sparse and with our experiments here. So can I hug the left half of my pelvic floor toward my right half? And can I relax the left and the right half apart? Now, if I do that with the pelvic floor, there's really not a seizing up or a contraction around the glute. And I think this might be really beneficial, a beneficial study for each of you, but for different, of course, for different reasons. I know we're working with kind of experimenting here. Again, if it comes from the pelvic floor, there's tone in my butt, but I'm not clenching it. Okay. Unwind. Inhale, hands to ground. Exhale, we'll step the right foot back and we'll lower all the way down to the ground. Okay. Now, very often, I'll say shift the tailbone toward the ground. Let's try something else. If you're lying on your belly and you can feel your pelvic floor, you can kind of picture it, feel it. Can you bring the back half of your pelvic floor more closely to your front half? It's almost like you're bringing the tailbone and the pubic bone closer together. As you bring them closer together, inhale. Lift up through cobra, chest forward. And as you exhale, lower down. And as you're pressing back into downward dog, good, press back. Can you feel the front half of your pelvic floor and the back half of your pelvic floor expand apart? Okay, in downward dog. In downward dog. What do you feel as you draw the left front and the right front quadrant closely together? You relax the left back and the right back quadrants. Inhale, step the left foot forward. We're setting up for lunge. We place the right knee down and the right hand down. Now, please, as we're doing these moves with the pelvic floor, just be very gentle. We're just doing a little bit. This isn't something to overdo. It's just about awareness. Right? And just a little bit of awareness is often enough to change things. So just a dabble do you. This is potent medicine. So my left arm hugs the thigh. And reach or feel all the way through the right big toe. And connecting to breath, and start to feel and sense the left and the right halves of pelvis, the left quadrants and the right quadrants. Okay, I'm just going to play a little bit right here. What if I bring the right halves, the right half and the left half of pelvic floor together and let them release or expand apart? Now this is pelvic floor. These aren't buttock muscles. You may feel a little bit, but it's really not clenching the muscles of the back. Just kind of bringing them softly, knitting them softly together and releasing them apart. So I'm taking the left half and the right half, right? And inhale, unwind. Curl the back toes under, exhale, step the right foot forward, folding. Inhale, stand, draw the arms up. Exhale, hands to heart. So if you're okay to experiment with folds, I will propose this next little bit. If you have any degree of pain or questionable reliability in your back's, hips, sensations, you might want to just watch. There's a lot of the awareness stuff you can do without the folding. So just I want you to know that. Zero pain, no pain. Okay. So I'm going to experiment with just a few folds. So one, just play around with how would you fold as you're going through a sun. I just want you to feel one of those folds and you can come right back up. Okay. Pubic bone is a nice landmark to kind of sense the front quadrants of my pelvic floor. Tailbone, okay, and sit bones are kind of a nice way, a bony landmark to start to feel and sense the back quadrants of the pelvic floor. Cool? So feel what happens when you bring the front half and the back half toward each other. Felt your abdominals turn on a little bit, right? Yeah, I'm using my hands just to track with the bony landmarks. My hands are very, very sensitive, so it helps me feel between the hands, around the hands. And I let them go. Okay? So again, I'm feeling as if I'm bringing the front half of my pelvic floor more closely to the back half of my pelvic floor, and then letting them release or expand apart. And again, if I'm getting the pelvic floor, do you notice that? There's a little engagement in these abdominals. The butt cheeks do not. They're not clenched. The back muscles, they don't seize up. There's a very specific, deep kind of engagement, and it's together, apart. Okay. Now, let's try that fold. Together, try the fold. Stand back up. Relax the halves apart. And if you need to do that one more time, we'll just do it up to one more time. So sometimes it takes a little bit of concentration, a little bit of gentle staying with to really feel these quadrants moving toward each other and relaxing apart. You know, we're all coming from different places, different tonicities in our body. So for some of us, we may have to really focus on keeping them together. And for some of us, it'll be more of like, how do I focus and keep feeling them relaxing apart? Okay, so I'm going to just do up to one more. This time I'm going to try just the front knitting, bringing together the front quadrants as I fold. So just the front quadrants, the back ones relaxed. Okay. I'm just going to let that all relax. Okay. So I just did 3 folds so far. I just did one where I just any old way, my usual habitual way. Okay. I did another fold where I felt the front half and the back half kind of coming together. Okay. And then I did my third one, just the front quadrants moving together. Maybe start to get a little sense of, ooh, one of those felt really good. One of those kind of helped me if I felt more ease or less ache. So now you can just have that awareness as we go through any and all of our folds. Downward dog at the wall. So I know one of those kind of piqued my interest, so I'm going to choose one of those combinations, those permutations of pelvic floor togethering and aparting. And we'll step into downward dog. When you're ready, step a foot hip height and do this as you're inhaling without releasing whatever parts of the pelvic floor you're working with. Exhale, press the other foot up hip height. And take about 5, 6, maybe 8 breaths. Again, the way I'm kind of linking or bringing these areas together is not by force, but just by gentle curiosity. It's really important that we don't overdo this. And then whenever you feel complete, we'll simply step down, and then if you had some combination of engagement in your pelvic floor, you can kind of just relax and okay. When we come back to the mat, I want to show you by way of sitting on a block or 2 blocks. Okay. Now, see this first, because again, if you have some knee concerns or such, you could get the awareness and the feeling piece without the doing piece. So if the doing causes pain, don't do, right? Okay. So let me just show it to you first. See it first before you choose to do it. This is the move. And let me do it a few different ways so you can start to get the sense of how they're different. So if I just try to sit up, and I'm just going to use my big muscle engines, oh, that's so much work. It's great. I love working strongly, so that's kind of fun. It's like effort. Okay, let's sit back down on the blocks. Now, see how this works with the pelvic floor. I just kind of bring those quadrants together, up. So if this is something that you want to do to feel, here we are. One is I'm just really letting the pelvic floor go and letting my quadriceps and letting my muscles bring me up, leverage me up. Yeah. And the other way is where I feel the pelvic floor has something to do with it. And the best way I have to describe it is like all four quadrants of the pelvic floor coming together toward the middle. Whoop. Ah, that's it, Joy. That's it. And again, this may take some practice to just starting to feel these areas of the pelvic floor, and that's perfectly fine. That's it, Joy. Yeah. So that looked different, huh, Joy? That looked like two different scenarios. Yeah. Cool. So we're just trying in just very little doses of trying because, again, this is not something we want to overdo. Right. So now we have that information. Ah, we're moving to standing, but here it goes again. I can heave myself up with my muscle engines, or with my pelvic floor. Ah, consider. There you go. It's all play, right? So there's just different ways of moving about the world. Inhale, we'll draw the arms up. Now here comes that fold. Now you may have started to enact something through the pelvis that helps you fold. Inhale, step the right foot back, lunge. Hands to ground. Exhale, step the left foot back. And we lower. Plank to ground. So here's another place we were playing with the how to move the halves of the pelvic floor together. Maybe one of those felt better for you in your back. So I'm just going to play with bringing the front half and the back half together, closer together, inhaling into cobra. Now again, when it comes from the pelvic floor, my butt muscles don't really clench. They might engage a little bit, but it's not a clamping down of the big engine muscles. Inhale the hands under the chest. Exhale, press back. And in downward dog, I'm going to play with feeling the front two quadrants move toward each other, and feeling the back two quadrants expand or kind of relax apart. Inhale, step the right foot forward, lunge. Hands to ground, exhale, a step forward, folding. Inhale, stand, draw the arms up. Exhaling, hands to heart. And again, I just want to say it again and again. This isn't about the action of can I squeeze or the efforts. It's about the sensation and the awareness. And sometimes that awareness and that sensation arise because of some of our efforts. So we don't want to confuse the effort taken for the awareness kind of awoken to. Inhale, draw the arms up. Exhale, fold. So relaxing maybe the back two quadrants. Inhale, step the left foot back, lunge. Hands to ground, exhale, step the right foot back, and we lower. Inhale, cobra. Or maybe you find out you get a very particular moment of discomfort by squeezing the halves, the left and the right together. But maybe you don't feel discomfort if you bring the front and the back half together. Downward dog. So the awareness can sometimes bring about kind of solutions or resolutions or kind of workarounds. Lunge. Inhale, step the left foot forward. Hands to ground. Exhale, step right foot forward. Fold. Inhale, stand, draw the arms up. And exhaling, hands to heart. So, a little bit of wall work. Working lunges at the wall. And I want to ensure my knee feels really well padded, so I've got a blanket. All right. And so most of us have set this up together. I go knee very close to the corner, shin vertical, and note my foot is padded by the mat. I'm going to take a very gentle or modest, kind of very low sensation placement. Because very often, if I just go into a place of high sensation, I may miss what my pelvic floor is doing. Sometimes we go into high sensation or shock or intensity, and there can be quite an unconscious, like seizing in the body. And so I just want to Right. So with my hands down, I'm just going to play for a moment with the front half and the back half. Bringing the front half toward the back half, perhaps. Because there might be a way that we can start to move upright that actually feels really supported. Yeah, nice. And then when you've kind of experimenting, connect to your breath. There you go. Remember how we sat up from those blocks? What the pelvic floor, the involvement and the intelligence thereof seems to have with it this lightness, this whoop, this effortless, like up. This effortless up and this effortless ground connect. So it seems to be, again, my opinion, my perception rather, to me, it really, the pelvic floor has some connection to me with that vertical, the vertical directionality, how one lightly and effortlessly goes up and how one effortlessly connects down. Again, my perception, so I encourage you to play and feel and get your own perception. All right, I'm going to do one more iteration here, shifting forward. Now, when most of us shift forward, we may kind of lose some of that connectivity through some of those quadrants. So I'm moving with that in mind. So again, I'm not cutting off or clenching the anus. I'm not clenching. There's an activity, but it's not a stultifying effort. It's a very gentle, very gentle. Good. And let's back out a little bit. We will switch sides, but I'm going to take a moment to stand between sides. You can go directly into the other side, but I'm going to take a standing moment. So I want to just feel how my that talk between the ground and the pelvic floor. I just want to feel that talk, that nice. Okay. So something interesting is happening. This is cool. I'm glad we're in the lab together. All right, let's do the other side. Let's go to the other side. So again, I'm going to enter from a very soft place, a sensory, mild experience. I'm going to find the mild spot. And that's where I just remember connecting to breath and for our experiments today, the pelvic floor. Again, these are very light, gentle, I cannot emphasize that enough. It's just barely a hint of find is probably sufficient. And let me make one more distinguishing point, just for more safety than anything, is there are ways where we can contract our musculature and create an exquisitely a really high amount of like sensation. Okay. Often those really, really intense squeezes for the sensory quotient can sometimes really mute our sensitivity of the pelvic floor and the breath. So the breath is a very gentle creature, so we're moving and experimenting without snuffing out the breath. And then we can always there you go. And just staying with the pelvic floor, just come on, If you need to put a hand on your pubic bone and your tailbone, that's great. And because of various surgeries or pregnancies or athletics or any kinds of complications, we may have a really like a unique pelvic floor circumstance. You may want or need to play with bringing two of these quadrants together. You may need to play with letting two of those quadrants relax apart. Right? I just want to bring up this notion that these ways of connecting and drawing and expanding and releasing can help us perceive differently. Okay, and then one more iteration, we're lunging slightly forward. You may just experiment with what happens when I bring the front right closer to the back left. What happens when I bring the front left quadrant closer to the back right? And release. Come into downward dog. And from downward dog, I just want to take us through the motions of what we may choose to do at the wall in a moment. So from downward dog, raise right leg. Now, some of you may find much greater support by bringing the front two quadrants ever so slightly together. For some of you, you may feel great support by bringing the front right closer to the back left. Feel that support. Now we'll settle the right foot down and we'll switch sides. You may feel like you need to relax the front left away from the back right. You may feel like you need to relax the front right away from the back left quadrant. And set the left foot down. Gently set the knees down. Okay. So we're going to repeat that from downward dog at the wall. Now, if your hands feel a little tired, you could do this from dolphin on the wall. You could put your forearms down. I'm choosing my hands today. Okay. So if you're ready, I do downward dog. We'll step feet up, hip height, just like before. Mm-hmm. And then reaching one foot away from the wall at a time. Switching sides. And when you're complete, just step down one foot all the way to the ground, the other foot all the way to the ground. And then have a seat. I'm moving into shoelace. You're welcome to choose cross-legged if that's a better situation for your hips or your knees. So we'll be moving in the direction of the foot. So I have my right foot on top, my right sole of foot exposed. Inhale the arms up. First, keep reaching up with the arms. Turn slightly to your left. Kind of a spiraling, a tubular spiraling turn to the left. Take another breath. And now exhale, reach out over that right foot and just set the hands down to support. Getting either the hand or the arm to connect with the right foot. So that's my right hand or my right arm contacting the right foot, twisting pigeon toward the foot. Good. Just soften through the jaw and the back of the neck behind the ear. And release. We'll switch sides. Inhale, we'll draw the arms up. And I'm going to first make a little turn to the right. And then fold, reaching the left arm over the left foot. If you find yourself kind of getting spacey, like lifting, going that up movement, that vertical up, that effortless up, up, up. And just gently kind of wriggle your feet, feel the feet. Feel your seat, your actual physical seat, the back of your thighs, the buttock, the genitals, the legs. Good. Inhale, we unwind. Let's lie back for Shavasana. And here, letting go the quadrants of the pelvic floor. And this pelvic floor has a lot to do with, at least developmentally, with the very beginning motions of navigating through space, crawling, rolling, crawling, starting to propel us through our environment. Our synovial fluid, our joint spaces have a lot to do with our interpretation of those spatial relationships in our body. To feel the finger joints effortlessly relaxing, open. And your sense of wrist joints unimpeded. When unimpeded by any subtle grasping, what can be felt? What movement, intrinsic movement, can be felt in the wrist? Or in the elbows? In the shoulders? It's almost as if letting the bones relax apart to feel, peer, and sense right between them. Feel how the toe joints are capable of softening and relaxing. When you're ready, bend knees. Help yourself over to one side and press up. Namaste.